Next on C-SPAN, the daily White House press briefing with Press Secretary Sean Spicer.
Beyond all of the activity here, this is the official reminder to everyone to get your flowers and cards before it's too late. And with that, Jeff Mason.
Thank you for that reminder, Sean.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the news of the week, really, and the day. Did President Trump record his conversations with former FBI Director Comey?
I assume you're referring to
His
the tweet, and I've talked to the president. The president has nothing further to add on that.
Why did he say that? Why did he tweet that? What should we interpret from that?
As I mentioned, the president has nothing further to add on that.
Are there recording devices in the Oval Office or in the residence?
As I said for the third time, there is nothing further to add on that.
Does he think it's appropriate to threaten someone like Mr. Comey not to speak?
I don't think that's not a threat. He's simply stated a fact. The tweet speaks for itself. I'm moving on. John.
If I could quote another one of the president's tweets this morning, he said, quote, "Russia must be laughing up their sleeves watching as the U.S. tears itself apart over a Democratic excuse for losing the election." What did the president mean by that? How specifically is the U.S. tearing itself apart over all of this?
I think the president's comments about Russia and collusion have been very clear with respect to some of the charges that have been made. He's been very clear that it's one thing that he believes that the notion that there's collusion is a hoax. It's been reaffirmed by several people, including Senator Grassley and others who have spoken to him, and that he wants to make sure that he's focused every day on doing what's best for the American people.
I understand all that, but you've said that many times, but how is the U.S. tearing itself apart?
Well, I think obviously this has been a subject that comes up over and over again when it's been very clearly stated on multiple occasions that there's no collusion that occurred, and yet this narrative continues to be perpetuated.
Do you think this is what the Russians wanted all along in interfering with the election?
I don't. I have no idea. But what I'm just telling you is I think we've made it clear at this podium several times, and I think the president made it clear that what his feelings are on this.
Sean, in the dinner that the president had with James Comey earlier in January, did the president implore him to pledge his loyalty to the president? Is that true?
No.
Did that happen? That did not happen?
No.
How important is it that the FBI director be loyal to the president? Is that a quality the president wants to see in anyone, particularly his FBI director?
I think the president wants loyalty to this country and to the rule of law. Trey.
Sean.
Thanks, Sean. On the dinner with James Comey, does anyone in this White House have an audio recording of what unfolded during the January 27th dinner between the former FBI director and the President of the United States?
I'm not aware of that.
I have one follow-up question for you. What can the administration do better when it comes to communication? Today, the President tweeted out that he felt from behind that podium it's not always possible to present the information with perfect accuracy.
Mm-hmm. So, I think we come out here every day and try to do the best job we can communicating what the president's done and the accomplishments he's making on the American people. We get here early. We work beyond being here at this podium. As many of you know, we get here early. We work pretty late. We do what we can, but the president is an activist president. He keeps a very robust schedule, as many of you are very well aware, and as you can tell by the activities of next week alone. And I think sometimes we don't have an opportunity to get in to see him, to get his full thinking. In those cases, we do our best to follow up with you. But I think that there are times when you, more than not, read a story where someone's trying to pull apart one word, one sentence, and say, aha, and make it a gotcha thing. We work very hard to get you the most accurate and up-to-date information throughout the day. We don't always have the opportunity to get in to see the president. And in those cases, I think we do a pretty good job of following up and getting you the information after the briefing or in a subsequent. So that's exactly what he meant.
Is the president considering canceling the daily press briefings?
I think he's a little dismayed, as well as a lot of people, that we come out here and try to do everything we can to provide you and the American people with what he's doing on their behalf, what he's doing to keep the nation safe, what he's doing to grow jobs. And yet we see time and time again an attempt to parse every little word and make it more of a game of gotcha, as opposed to really figure out what the policies are, why something's being pursued, or what the update is on this. And I think that's where there's a lot of dismay, and I don't think it's something that just alone the president feels.
Can I ask you one final logistical question?
It's Friday.
On the original question I had about the dinner on January 27th with James Comey,
right.
the president wasn't clear during the NBC interview who invited the FBI director to the White House at that time. How many invitations did the White House send to Director James Comey after January 20th and before the director was fired?
I don't know. I'll try to get back to you. Amen.
Yesterday, Sarah told us that the president expects that the FBI investigation will be wrapped up with integrity. That's what the White House wants. Today, the president tweeted and called it a witch hunt. How does tweeting and calling it a witch hunt help wrap that investigation up with integrity?
The president, no one wants this done. He wants to know very clearly. There's two pieces of this, right? Which is what was Russia's involvement. The president is obviously very concerned about any entity's attempts to influence the United States election. And that's one investigation. I think the second, this false narrative that we continue to fight every day, that has been debunked by intelligence individuals, members of Congress who've been briefed over and over again, that's where I think he's growingly concerned, as well as a number of American people who are growingly concerned that there is this perpetuated false narrative out there. That's I think, the nut of this.
I talked to a former FBI official today who said that the president's tweet, the implicit threat to former FBI Director James Comey, indicates that the president, in his words, is simply out of control. I'd like to get you to respond to that. Is he?
That's frankly offensive.
Can I give my question to Kristen and then take the question back?
What's that?
You called on her first, so I just wanted to give her the question that you promised her before, and then I'll pick up from there.
And I'll let you a question. Thank you. I just want to. I want to ask
Currency
you.
exchange back there with questions.
I want to ask you. President Trump seemed to rely on James Clapper this morning when he tweeted that virtually he and everyone else with knowledge of the witch hunt says there is no collusion. James Clapper himself today told Andrea Mitchell, I don't know if there was collusion or not. I don't know if there's evidence of collusion or not, nor should I. On March 5th on Meet the Press, when he was asked a similar question, he said, not to my knowledge. So can you describe the discrepancy and explain it?
No. I actually think that that's a great question that you should ask Director Clapper. I think
No, between Director Clapper's comments and President Trump, why is he leaning on Clapper when he said, I have no knowledge of whether there was
No,
collusion?
I think on several occasions, Director Clapper has said that he has no knowledge of any collusion. That's it. I mean, that's the point that he has.
He hasn't been briefed. He said he wouldn't know because he hasn't been briefed on
He was
the investigation.
DNI up until
That's-
January 20th.
He was very clear today that he said, nor should I have in this particular context. He made the case that he's
Right,
not
and
briefed
on
an FBI investigation, that that's not his purview.
Fair enough. He's the Director of National Intelligence. On multiple occasions prior to today, he made it very clear that he was unaware of any collusion.
The point was he wouldn't know,
Well,
right?
but that-
There'd
but-
been no final conclusion.
Right, I
There'd
understand.
been no final conclusion.
I understand
and
that, but
the
then,
president seemed to indicate that
so
there
the
was
question
one.
that I would ask then, Kristen, is then why did he say what he said before? It seems his testimony and comments on multiple occasions prior to today was, I have no evidence that there was any collusion, right? So to suddenly today shift his story, I believe that the question should be asked to him. You were the Director of National Intelligence. You said multiple times, including in testimony in front of Congress, under oath, that there was no collusion. I believe that that's a question for him.
Final conclusion made about this investigation, right? There's an ongoing investigation.
He's
not making that argument, is he?
I understand, but my point is that all we're able to do at this point is that the people who are aware of the former Director of National Intelligence, the head of the nation's agencies, intelligence agencies, makes multiple statements, as others, Senator Grassley and others, talking about the involvement, making it very clear that there was none. We took him at their word then, and we continue to believe.
But I want to move on to just one other
I think
question.
that, but the question, Kristen, before you move on, is then why did he make the statements that he did when he did? To turn around now, months later, and say, well, even though I made those comments on multiple occasions, I wasn't briefed.
But the comments are not mutually exclusive, Josh. He's
I
made it very clear in his
appreciate-
comments today. It's not surprising or abnormal that I would not have known about the investigation.
Yeah, it sounds like the story has
or the
changed.
context of the investigation.
Okay, well, ultimately, there's been several.
Very quickly about the
Well,
accuracy.
do you mind if I think in this case, it is interesting how the story has changed. He made those comments several times over several courses of action. And to say that the Director of National Intelligence, who stated unequivocally what his position was on multiple occasions before today, and now suddenly is saying, I wasn't sure about it, that the burden seems to be on him, not us.
But Moving on to the accuracy.
Apply for like a Clapper spokesman job.
No, but I just am interested in the discrepancy in drawing a
And
final
I think that
conclusion
that's a
on the
great
part
thing
of the
to ask him.
president. No, on the part of the president,
Okay.
drawing a final conclusion about the investigation. In terms of the accuracy tweet, should we take that tweet to mean that you don't have the full picture when you stand at that podium?
As I said, we come up here every day, not just to the podium, but you know, we are here first thing in the morning till late at night every day, answering your questions on a variety of subjects and throughout issues that are happening in the government. We, as most of you can attest, work day and night to make sure that we get you the most up-to-date, accurate information at all times. With respect to the president, as I mentioned, he's an activist president. He keeps an unbelievably busy and robust schedule. And there are times when we give you the information that we have at the time and we seek to get an update. And I believe that you and others will attest to when we don't have an answer, we try really hard to either update you after the fact or to get you the facts that we didn't have at the time. But we work really hard every day to do that. And I think the president's point that I pointed out earlier is that there are times when we're asked a question, we do our best to give you the answer, and every word is picked apart to try to figure out how to make an issue out of it, as opposed to allowing us to, you know, talk to the president, get his current thinking and updates if we hadn't had an opportunity to do that at this time.
Two questions. The first one on loyalty and the next one on the visit to the FBI headquarters. So this president does value loyalty. Was there any sort of, before you were hired, any sort of request or hint that you pledged personal loyalty to him at all before you were hired?
No, I've pledged my loyalty to the Constitution and to the American people, as has everyone who serves in our government and this administration, and we stand by that.
Is it true that the president was warned that he might not be well received at the FBI headquarters if you were to visit?
I don't, not that I'm aware of. Thank you guys, have a great weekend.
Sean,
We'll
business
see you
plan.
on Monday.
Hey,
Thank you.
Sean,
Bye.
did you ask the